we go. The way to start the day with a pretty smallmouth. So. Oh yeah, a little drag pull. Put that down back in the water. Pretty little largemouth right there. Oh man, I should have measured that dude. Oh my gosh. Sight cast with this dude right here. Freaking choked it, son. That dude is chunky. Fish on. That's a toad, brother. Golly. All right, guys, so before I jump into today's video, I'm going to apologize in advance for some of the video quality in today's video, meaning there was a lot of starting and stopping. Basically, I was struggling with the cameras overheating. It was 100+ degrees. I was filming myself. We've brought my son Austin on full time now. That way we can kind of get you better content. But for this video, I really wanted to share this insight into catching fish in the river. It's actually one of those things I haven't talked about. But it doesn't make any sense for me to keep it to myself. And I also wanted to really further confirm it before I started talking about it. Everybody knows red baits. Any kind of red bait, any kind of red crankbait, jig, whatever, works really good in the spring. There's a ton of videos on YouTube talking about red and fire crawl and all this other stuff as a spring lure. And those videos are 100% correct. Red, for whatever reason, on lakes especially, works really well in the springtime. But I think a lot of people throw their red lures in a box and forget about them. And so I'm going to tell you a time that these baits excel regardless of where you're fishing or when you're fishing. If you're fishing a river that has rock, red just flat out kills it. I don't know the science behind it, but I will tell you this. If the water's clear and the skies are clear, use a lighter colored red with not as black of a back or even like just an orange back and a yellower orangish belly, a lighter colored red. If you've got overcast or if you've got stained or muddy water, go to a darker red with a black back or a darker back and you're going to catch a heck of a lot more fish. And I'll tell you this, when you're fishing crankbaits in the river, don't beat the banks exclusively. You can catch them on the bank, but this really excels out in the middle of the river. So that's generally where the rocks are. And a lot of us bass fishermen especially think the bank's where the cover's at. But when you're thinking about a river and the fact that there's rocks from bank to bank and all out in the middle, we often overlook the middle of the river. So I'm really successful catching lots of smallmouth. In fact, at the end of the video with this lure, that lure right there, I caught a really good smallmouth and then the freaking camera overheated and I wasn't able to really give you guys a good look at that bait. But for most of the trip, when the skies were clear and the water was clear, I was killing them on this lighter orange colored bait with that orange colored belly and a computer chip. In fact, if you really look at this bill, you can see all around this thing is kind of nasty and banged up. It's because I'm rooting the bait. So that brings me to the next point, okay? I think color matters from a contrast standpoint. If it's clear and clear skies, use a little bit lighter red color, oranges and yellows mixed in. If it's stained water or overcast, go to that darker red with that black back. I actually like, if there's an intermediate, if like the water's lightly stained, I'll even go to the lighter red with more of a brown back and that orange or yellowish belly. I want bottom contact, okay? So I pick the style of bait based on the deepest holes that I'm running into. And for this particular trip, I had this Livingston Lures howler tied on in that intermediate, that 6 to 7 foot depth. I use as light a leader as I can get away with, in this case, either 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon, because I want to keep bottom contact and the thinner diameter gets down to the bottom. But at the same time, because I'm moving, if I hang up, I want the weakest link to be from the leader to the lure so I don't flip my kayak over. I don't, end up putting myself in a dangerous situation. So again, you want that leader to fluorocarbon connection, or if you're fishing straight fluoro, you want to drop down to something below 12, 10, maybe even 8 pound fluorocarbon. But you want to maintain bottom contact. So fish the style of bait that you can maintain bottom contact with. For example, if I'm fishing in a 6 or 8 foot hole and I can maintain bottom contact with this lure, I can still throw it up shallow and root it along the bottom and get strikes. But if I throw this bait that runs 3 to 4 feet, then I'm not getting down and running into those rocks. I'm not getting that reaction strike, and I'm not putting myself in the strike zone. So the two big takeaways is maintain bottom contact. Don't forget about the middle of the river. Red works year round in any river that's got rock in it. I don't know why it don't work as well in just grassy or sandy bottoms, but if the river's got any rock in it, even if it's scattered, red just flat kills it. Dark when the water's stained or the sky's overcast, lighter, more, you know, muted colors with a less contrasted back and a lighter color stomach when the lure is, or when the skies are clearer and the water's clearer. Now, in these same situations, I have found a bait that I've added to my arsenal that I've never river fished with before until 2 years ago, and I didn't want to come out and say that this thing is deadly until I'd proven it. Well, guys, in every situation, in probably 15 states, fishing rivers, every time I'm faced with high temperatures, a lot, and the bite slows down, and I've got shade on the banks, the lure I'm about to tell you about flat out catches them. And that lure is a downsized underspin. In this case, I'm using a Guggen Saucy Swimmer with a 3/0 hook. This is the 3.8 size. Now, when I get down in the smaller sizes, I think the Kayak performs a little bit better. I think for the biggest swim baits, your Rage Tails from Strike King beat everybody else out. Honestly, in that middle space, that upper 3 into middle 4s, the Guggen Saucy Swimmer has been outperforming any of the baits for me. But then when I get down into those smaller sizes, that 3.3 or smaller, I've been going to the Kayak. So this lure right here, the Guggen Saucy Swimmer and the 3/0 hook, 1/4 ounce, that thing right there skipped up into shallow water, slowly reeled out of shade lines, put a bunch of fish on the board for me. It really works over grass and rock and things like that in lakes too, but I have found this thing right here will flat catch them. I've used it to sight cast a fish out in the middle of the river when there's no rock and they're just laying next to a stick, a twig, a depression or something like that. But if you're not fishing an underspin, especially a really small downsized underspin with a really small blade on it, I have found that in the rivers and in the lakes when the water's hotter, and this is again counterintuitive, the willow blade doesn't work as well. I think the Colorado blade creates a little bit more drag. I think it makes that blade, that bait shake a little bit more, stays in the strike zone a little bit longer, gives them more of a chance to decide they want to eat it. That gold color has worked for me in clear water and stained water, but I tied it on because of the stain. But man, the 1-2 punch for me this summer, from basically anywhere from Minnesota to North Dakota to South Dakota to Tennessee to, I know, a half a dozen other states that I've visited. And I really wanted to proof this concept before I went out and said this thing is definitively going to catch fish. But an underspin with a downsized swim bait, like I said, in this case, it's the Guggen Saucy Swimmer, 3/0 owner underspin. I downsized to the 3.3 Kayak with the 2/0 underspin, and honestly, it was about 50-50. I caught a lot of fish on this, probably bigger fish on this, but I caught a lot of fish on that 3.3 and 2.8 Kayak with a 2/0 hook. So guys, listen, hope you enjoyed this video. I really wanted to give you the juice up front because the video quality wasn't, you know, up to the bar that I normally set. It's still good stuff, so you're definitely gonna wanna watch it to the end. I caught some chunky smallmouth, but I wanted to give you the stuff up front. Red crankbaits, anytime there's rock and anytime you've got shade and your temperatures are up in the middle of the summer, throw that underspin with a downsized swim bait on it and you're gonna flat catch them. Now, let's check out the video. Well guys, welcome to today's video where we're on the river. Let me spin around upstream so that I'm not dark. So I'm out here with Scott from Minyak, Minnesota Kayak Bass Fishing League, and Colin from Chicago. They're showing me a beautiful stretch of river here in Minnesota. We're going to try to catch some river smallies. Here we go. Here we go. Good fish. Pull over here out the current, land this thing, and we're going to get a picture and a measurement. Not a bad way to start the day with a pretty smallmouth. Sorry, I wish I was in better light, but that thing absolutely hammered that swim bait. Look at that pretty thing right there. Let's get the board out and get ourselves a little bit of an upgrade for the state of Minnesota and the Catch 22 challenge. All right, guys, so for this episode, I hooked up with Scott from Minyacker and Colin from Riverman TV. And, you know, it's really hard to spend a lot of time socializing on the river because you're basically heading down the river. And these guys insisted that I go out front for most of the trip. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of interaction. But the cool thing about river fishing is that there's this leapfrog effect that happens. One time you take point, the next time another guy takes point, and you're constantly changing up the dynamic. So for this trip, I got to tell you that Colin's insight to this river was invaluable when it come to catching fish. The guy seemed to know every bend, every blade of grass, every hook, every stump, every laydown. So that's why you should head over to his channel, Riverman TV, and check out his insights on how to read water, where fish position themselves in the river, and you're going to pick up a whole lot of insights, stuff that, to be honest with you, I didn't even know about river fishing. So go check out Riverman TV. Colin puts out some great content. Now let's get back on the river. Here we go. Oh yeah, a little drag pull. Another pretty river smallie. Look at that thing right there. All right, let's get that guy back in the water. So, yeah. Look at that, guys. That's a largemouth. Pretty little largemouth right there. Oh man, I should have measured that dude. Well, guys, as usual, if I talk to Christy on the phone, it's like a good luck charm. So I'm going to pull over and take a picture of this smallmouth to upgrade. I just lost a giant one talking to Brendan on the phone, like a 20 plus monster, because I didn't bring my leverage landing net today.
Well, we see who the better good luck charm is.
Well, I haven't got it in the boat yet, so don't count them too soon. Hold on a second. But yeah, there ain't no doubt about that. Look at that thing right there, guys. Another gorgeous river smallie. They are chewing the crankbait today, guys. Get that one back in the water. Down the river. Try to catch another one. I just don't want to rake the head off my GoPro because I crashed one when I dropped my trailer, and now I'm it's brand new, you know. Here we go. Yeah. It's when you got a good spotter ahead of you that says, it's not high enough. Take down your camera pole. It's good. It's good stuff. So we'll just do it this way right here. Thanks for the heads up, bro. That would have been like.
Lower as it went, I was like,
Yeah.
making it.
It looked good at the beginning, but yeah, it would have definitely tapered down and been nasty. And this one's got no give because I cut it off and I just stick it in the flush mount. So like the other one has the base on it and I leave it relatively loose. So like if I'm running down a river and it catches something, it'll fold down. This joker right here would have been like, and it would have pushed the boat on over.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it. Just lost a good one. Had a long stretch of nothing, so I turned the camera off for a little bit, made a cast up into that pocket and had one freaking murder it. And it was a big one too. That's 2 quality fish that I've lost today. Golly. That one I tried not to put too much pressure on it until I got the camera running, and then I just don't think I set the hook well enough. Dang. Here we go. Yeah. Oh yeah. This dude's pulling. Every fish, I am kicking myself for not bringing my leverage landing net. Oh, this guy's barely hooked. Let me get him in the boat. Look at that. Oh my gosh. I just sight casted this dude right here. That was freaking awesome. I saw him laying in the grass and flicked the old swim bait with the underspin on it out there. Let it flutter down in front of him. He freaking choked it, son. That dude is chunky. So I got him on a little owner underspin, little 3/0 hook with a downsized trailer. That thing right there has produced a lot of fish for me over the years, but it's actually my first river smallmouth on it. It's pretty sweet.